There are truths that only reveal their full weight after the damage is already done. There are mistakes that don't break the body, yet silently shatter one's destiny. And there are people who never go hungry, but live in a misery no money can ever heal. Today I want to touch upon a point many avoid because it hurts, it's unsettling, and it directly confronts one's character. There's a kind of poverty that doesn't show in your wallet, but exposes the soul. And it's called dishonesty. How many people have you seen get rich quickly, only to fall even faster? How many have had everything in their grasp and lost everything within? What they had in common wasn't a lack of opportunity, it was a lack of truth. Because no one can sustain prosperity on a rotten foundation. Money might find its way into the wrong hands, but it never stays there for long. That is a silent law of life. And perhaps you're quietly asking yourself right now, does this also apply to me? Are the small concessions I make every day undermining my future without me even realizing it? Most people fear running out of money, but almost no one fears losing their character. And that's precisely where invisible ruin begins. There are those who lie to others, and there are those who lie to themselves, and that second lie is always the most costly. I knew men who earned more than they ever dreamed of, and yet they slept in fear. Fear of being discovered, fear of losing it all, fear that everything had been built on sand. Because the truth is simple, whoever bargains with their own conscience pays interest that doesn't appear on a bank statement. The dishonest person might accumulate dollars, but they lose something infinitely more valuable: peace. And without peace, no amount of wealth is ever enough. This logic wasn't learned from books. I saw it repeat itself in real life, in business deals, in contracts, in broken promises, in averted gazes. Whenever someone tries to win by deception, they are merely setting the date for their own downfall. True prosperity demands alignment between thought, word, and action. When these three clash, emotional poverty, constant insecurity, and an internal consuming fear are born. Perhaps you know someone who lives this way, or perhaps on some level, this story is trying to warn you about something you've been putting off, because no one destroys their own future all at once. Destruction happens in small, almost imperceptible installments, disguised as shortcuts, justifications, and just this once. Fraud always starts small: an omitted value, a promise no one will hold you to, an agreement made with no intention of fulfilling it. And each of these choices plants a seed that sooner or later germinates. The human mind can justify anything, but life collects its dues with absolute precision. There is no nation, position, or amount of dollars that can protect someone from the consequences of a fragile character. Most people think life only punishes the weak. No. Life punishes the false. Strength without character merely accelerates the fall. And perhaps the greatest tragedy is this: the dishonest person rarely realizes they are already poor while still overflowing with money. They only discover it when the silence of dawn becomes too heavy, when distrust becomes a part of all their relationships, when the constant feeling of being watched, judged, and threatened by their own past emerges. Prosperity born of deceit doesn't build, it imprisons. It doesn't liberate, it watches. The truly rich person walks lightly. The dishonest person walks tensely. The person of integrity sleeps without fearing tomorrow. The dishonest person never fully rests. And this permanent tension is the clearest evidence that true poverty has already taken root. What truly builds wealth isn't just what you earn, but who you become while earning it. And that's precisely what many ignore when they chase money as if it were life's sole objective. Money is merely an effect. Character is the cause. And no corrupted cause can generate a healthy effect. You might deceive someone today. You might benefit tomorrow. But you will never escape the invisible sum of your own choices. Because destiny never fails to collect its due. And when the time comes, it gives no warning. Dishonesty always tries to disguise itself as cleverness. It whispers in your ear, "No one will notice. It's just this once." Everyone does it. And that's exactly how billions of dreams have been silently extinguished. The curious thing is that almost no one wakes up saying, "Today I'm going to destroy my future." People simply make small agreements with their own conscience, and each of these agreements comes with an invisible price. Have you ever noticed how anxiety often accompanies those who live by appearances? Have you observed how many who project confidence externally live in constant fear internally? The dread of exposure, insecurity in relationships, constant distrust, is that prosperity? Or is it merely wealth draped in tension? The person of integrity grows slowly but with deep roots. The dishonest person grows quickly, but like a hollow tree that collapses at the first strong wind. And perhaps you're wondering, but what about those who steal and get rich? And those who deceive and seem to prosper their entire lives? I tell you with absolute conviction, no one deceives their own mind without paying an extremely high emotional price. There's no trick capable of silencing the conscience for long, and when it awakens, it collects everything all at once. I witnessed this firsthand in a way I'll never forget. There was a moment in my life when I was mired in failures, surrounded by debt, living daily with the humiliation of not even being able to uphold the dignity a man wishes to possess. Amidst this, the temptation arose to accept an easy, fast, seemingly clever path. An opportunity that promised easy dollars, but demanded the silence of my truth. I spent an entire night sleepless. My mind screamed one thing, my conscience screamed another. If I had accepted, perhaps the next day there would have been ample food, comfort, a little relief. But something inside me said that money would cost far too much. I refused, and I confess, in the following days, it seemed I had been foolish. Scarcity continued. The difficulties grew harsher. But something inside me remained whole. Years later, that same scheme came to light. People lost everything. Reputations ruined. Families shattered. Businesses closed. And at that moment, I realized it hadn't been a renunciation. It had been a deliverance. The sadness of that period transformed into one of the greatest invisible protections of my life. Not every refusal impoverishes you. Some save your entire future. This isn't just philosophy. Social research conducted as early as the first decades of this century already demonstrated that men who maintained rigid standards of honesty exhibited lower levels of chronic stress, greater family stability, and higher life satisfaction, even when they earned fewer dollars than those who lived by deception. The body responds to the kind of mind you nurture. Lies sicken, truth strengthens. Dishonesty might seem like a financial shortcut, but it is always an emotional detour. And emotional detours always exact a toll. Now let me ask a question almost no one likes to confront. If all your money had to come only from what you could calmly explain, would you sleep in peace tonight? If every dollar had to be justified in front of your children, your parents, or your own conscience, would you feel pride or discomfort? Prosperity isn't what you manage to hide, it's what you can sustain without fear. And if what I'm saying makes sense so far, then I ask you something simple yet powerful. If this content is opening your eyes, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel now. This isn't just a symbolic gesture. This is what allows these truths to keep reaching people who are exactly where you once were, full of doubts, fears, and silent conflicts. Every subscription strengthens this mission. Every like pushes this message to someone who might be one step away from making the wrong choice without realizing it. There's a fundamental difference between having money and being rich. Having money is possessing numbers. Being rich is living without ghosts. Dishonesty creates ghosts that haunt you forever. Ghosts of shame, guilt, distrust, and insecurity. Integrity creates something infinitely rare, inner freedom. And those who are free within never again accept being enslaved by shortcuts. The person who loses their reputation loses something no bank in the world can safeguard. And when that happens, all money turns into emotional dust, because no one builds happiness on a foundation of lies, and no one sustains peace living in war with themselves. There's a dangerous error that infiltrates the minds of those surrounded by small deceptions, the illusion that no one is watching. But even when the world's eyes aren't attentive, life observes in silence. And it never fails in its accounting. The dishonest person usually measures everything in dollars. How much came in, how much went out, how much was left over, but they never measure what they're losing internally. And it's precisely this invisible loss that prepares the greatest falls. Because ruin rarely begins at the bank. It begins in the mind, It begins when someone starts to believe that the end justifies the means, that a small deviation today won't affect tomorrow, that a well-told lie avoids a momentary failure. However, the mind is shaped by repetition, and after some time, the lie ceases to be a strategy and transforms into an identity. The person no longer merely deceives others, they deceive themselves every day when they look in the mirror. Have you ever noticed how some people constantly live expecting something to go wrong, even when everything seems fine? Have you ever noticed how some people can never fully enjoy what they've achieved? This constant state of alert isn't caution, it's accumulated guilt. It's the mind trying to warn you that something is out of place. No fortune was ever meant to carry the weight of a conscience surrounded by ghosts. And the bigger the lie, the greater the fear. The fear of losing, the fear of being exposed, the fear of trusting, the fear of loving, even the fear of resting. Because rest demands peace. And peace doesn't reside where truth doesn't enter. There was a public figure, widely admired in the world of finance during the early decades of this century, someone who amassed a gigantic sum of dollars through manipulations and frauds that were only discovered years later. On the outside, prestige. On the inside, a storm. When everything came to light, it wasn't just money that dissolved. It was friendships, respect, family, reputation, future. What seemed like an empire turned out to be a structure held together by paper. And when the truth blows, paper doesn't withstand. The lesson is simple and cruel. No one can hide from life what they build against their own conscience. Time is the most relentless partner of the dishonest person. It observes, waits, and collects without haste. Behavioral studies conducted even before the middle of this century already showed something striking. Men who lie frequently live under constant physiological tension, experience greater nervous exhaustion, more sleep disturbances, and a higher propensity for family breakdowns. Lying doesn't just stay in words, it settles in the body. Truth, on the other hand, organizes. It aligns. It strengthens. Those who live by excuses tire quickly. Those who live by principles build endurance for decades. And this explains why so many get rich early and go bankrupt too soon. Earning money is an act. Sustaining prosperity is a state of mind. Now I want to propose something that may seem small, but profoundly transforms life when practiced seriously. For 7 full days before making any decision involving money, advantage, or personal benefit, ask yourself just one silent question. Would I do this if I were being watched by everyone I love? Don't tell anyone you're doing it. Just observe how this question changes your impulses, your responses, your negotiations, your choices. At the end of these 7 days, you will have something more valuable than any sum of dollars: clarity. Clarity about where you have been whole, and clarity about where you have sold yourself for far less than you are worth. Integrity may seem like a slow path for those who only see today, but for those who understand tomorrow, it is the only safe path. Every person who builds their life on their own truth sleeps better, lives better, and ages with dignity. But the one who builds on lies may smile in public, yet carries a hidden sorrow that never silences itself. Life will test all of us, but it is especially hard on those who defy it through falsehood, because truth does not need to run. It always arrives, and perhaps now you are beginning to realize something unsettling and liberating at the same time. It is not money that defines a person's wealth. It is the tranquility they feel when they close their eyes at night. Those who need to guard their past do not own the present, and those who fear their future have already lost today. Prosperity that depends on deception is merely a debt advanced by fate. And the bill always comes due. There comes a point in life when one stops running from their own choices and finally confronts them. This moment doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives in silence. It arrives when the clamor of excuses can no longer drown out the voice of conscience. And in that moment, something curious happens. Many discover that they weren't poor in money, but impoverished in truth. There are people who spend decades chasing figures and never realize that they were in reality running from themselves. Dishonesty creates a powerful illusion. It promises control, but delivers dependence. It promises advantage, but delivers fragility. It promises speed, but delivers instability. because everything built against one's own integrity demands constant maintenance through fear, and everything that requires fear to sustain itself is already condemned to fall. I learned this by observing individuals who started from nothing, without favors, without shortcuts, and without cheating, but with something almost forgotten in this world: their word. One of them, still very young, decided that his signature would be worth more than any contract. He refused easy deals, endured years of pressure, faced bankruptcies, and was ridiculed for insisting on doing everything the right way. Many called him naive, but what few saw was that he was building not just a company, but a name impossible to buy. In time, that name came to move factories, employ thousands of men, generate millions of dollars, and, more important than all of that, inspire respect. It wasn't cleverness that brought him to that level. It was fidelity to his own principles. True triumph always springs from what one refuses to sell, even when hunger bites. And here arises a contrast difficult for many to swallow. Two men can earn exactly the same number of dollars throughout their lives, but only one of them will truly be rich. The other will continue to feel indebted to something they cannot explain, because wealth is not a sum, it is an inner state. There are those who possess houses, land, businesses, and full accounts, yet live under constant suspicion as if the entire world were a threat. There are those who possess little, but trust in each new dawn as someone who knows they have nothing to hide. Who do you think lives better? Who do you think falls ill less often? Who do you think ages with more lightness? Studies conducted even in the first half of this century already indicated that men involved in deceptive practices showed much higher rates of nervous tension, sleep disturbances, emotional breakdowns, and even unexpected physical ailments. The body was not born to carry two weights at the same time, the weight of work and the weight of guilt. One of them strengthens, the other destroys. And most people only realize this when the body starts to demand payment for what the mind tried to ignore for years. The heart tightens, breathing shortens, rest disappears. No pile of dollars buys a peaceful night's sleep when the conscience is at war. Now I want you to realize something essential. Dishonesty doesn't always begin with major crimes. It is born in the small details, in the change not returned, in the promise never intended to be kept, in the lie that seems harmless, in the shortcut justified by haste, in the favor accepted without merit. These are the moral crumbs that train the mind for bigger things. No one falls off a cliff by accident. First, the person approaches the edge, and they approach thinking they have control. The illusion of control is the last stage before the abyss. I have seen strong men cry like children when they finally realized they had conquered the world but lost themselves in the process. I saw voices tremble, hands sweat, embarrassed eyes try to escape the mirror. This kind of crying does not come from financial poverty. It is born from moral bankruptcy, and it is a cry that cannot be bought, only transformed by true repentance and slow reconstruction. Because a reputation, when it crumbles, does not fall in large blocks, it disintegrates into dust, and gathering dust requires time, silence, and real change. The truth is, no one becomes impoverished all at once. True poverty enters through the front door when a person begins to negotiate their principles in installments, and when they finally realize it, they have already mortgaged their future for advantages they can no longer even remember. Integrity always seems expensive at the beginning, but dishonesty always ends up being infinitely more costly in the end. Those who build with truth may stumble, but they always have something to lean on. Those who build with lies live without ground beneath their feet. Life does not demand perfection, it demands alignment, and when thought, word, and action walk together, even opposing winds seem to teach instead of destroy. Perhaps you are feeling something different from fear now, perhaps a weight lifting from your chest, perhaps a clarity that has been absent for a long time. This sensation does not come from money. It is born when the soul begins to remember who it was meant to be from the start. And when this happens, a person does not just become richer, they become freer, free from the performance, free from constant vigilance, free from the mask. Because truth has an immediate effect. It repositions destiny without a sound. There comes a moment in life when a person discovers they can no longer pretend to themselves. The masks still work for the world, but they no longer deceive one's own heart. And this is the most decisive point of existence, because from then on there are only two paths: continue negotiating one's essence or begin reconstruction. And rebuilding hurts. It hurts because it forces one to admit mistakes, to review choices, to face losses that could have been avoided. But this kind of pain is not destructive. It is corrective. It cuts to heal. The pain of dishonesty, however, is different. It does not heal. It merely spreads silently, contaminating everything it touches. The great illusion of ill-gotten gains is to make one believe they have won the game of life. But life is not confined to a financial score. True victory happens when you can pass through the years without needing to run from who you were. When the past doesn't weigh on your shoulders. When the name you carry doesn't provoke shame in your heart. Because nothing weighs more than an identity built on compromises. The body ages, the mind slows, reflexes weaken, and when that happens, what remains is only character. It is character that sustains a person when everything else begins to fail. Perhaps you have spent your entire life believing that the greatest tragedy would be running out of money. But the true tragedy is waking up one day with money in your pocket and realizing you have lost control over your own decisions. You have lost the trust of those you love. You have lost the ease of being who you truly are. You have lost the right to deep rest. There are many who never go hungry for bread, but they starve for peace. And that is the cruelest hunger of all. Because it cannot be appeased with purchases, parties, or status. It is only calmed when a person decides to return to their own truth. There is something that never fails to separate the truly wealthy from those merely pretending to be. Time. Time exposes. Time reveals. Time strips away facades and lays bare the foundations. It is not impressed by speeches, positions, or figures. It simply observes the coherence between what a person says and how they live. And when that coherence exists, time becomes an ally. When it does not, it becomes a judge, and no judge is as relentless as time. Real prosperity is not loud. It does not need to prove anything. It does not shout, does not flaunt, does not impose itself. It simply endures. And to endure is what everyone desires, even if few realize it. To stand firm when cycles change, to remain principled when temptations arise, to remain respected when applause ceases, to remain at peace when night falls. All of this is born from a single decision repeated every day, the decision not to betray one's own conscience for fleeting advantages. Perhaps today you do not perceive great differences between the easy path and the path of integrity. But in a few years, the distance between them will be greater than any sum of dollars. One will lead to exhaustion, to distrust, to constant fear. The other will lead to silent security, to solid confidence, to tranquility that does not depend on circumstances. One charges everlasting interest. The other pays invisible dividends. One imprisons. The other liberates. The person who chooses truth may walk more slowly, but they advance with both feet on the ground. The person who chooses fraud may even run, but they run on cracks. And sooner or later, all cracks give way. Life does not demand that you be perfect. It only demands that you be coherent. Because coherence sustains everything that money tries to imitate: respect, security, authority, trust, and peace. And perhaps now you understand with more clarity than ever why the dishonest remain poor, even when money accumulates in their hands. Because wealth is not quantity, it is quality of conscience. It is inner freedom. It is the tranquility of knowing that nothing needs to be hidden. When a person loses this, they can gain the entire world and still remain the most miserable among the wealthy. There is a moment in life when a person realizes they are no longer fighting against the world, but against their own conscience. They still work, still smile, still do business, but something has changed inside. Victories have lost their taste. Achievements no longer bring rest. Money still comes in, but joy no longer accompanies it. And at this point, many believe they need more results, when in reality, they need more truth. Because there is a wealth that only emerges when a person stops hiding from themselves. Dishonesty creates a kind of invisible prison. On the outside, freedom. On the inside, constant vigilance. Every word must be calculated. Every relationship must be filtered. Every step must be controlled. The mind never relaxes. The body never fully slows down. There is always something to protect, something to hide, something to justify. It is an entire life lived in defense mode, and no one can truly prosper while constantly at war. Most people think that the greatest slavery is the lack of money, but true slavery is depending on lies to maintain one's standard of living. When someone needs to uphold a facade to continue prospering, they no longer own their own prosperity. It possesses them. It commands them. It decides when they can sleep peacefully and when they must spend the night awake. This is not wealth. This is submission disguised as success. There is a profound difference between winning and deserving to win. Winning without merit generates fear. Winning with merit generates peace. The first always looks backward. The second always looks forward. The first fears losing. The second knows they can rebuild. Because the person who builds with integrity does not depend only on what they have. They depend on who they are, and who they are no one can take away from them. Many believe that honesty is a luxury for those who have already won. This is a dangerous lie. Honesty is not the prize of victory. It is its foundation. Without a foundation, every victory is temporary. Without a solid base, every empire is provisional. It is not the amount of dollars that keeps a person standing in difficult days. It is the certainty that they have not betrayed their true self to get there. There are people who are so afraid to lose that they cling to any advantage, whether legitimate or not. But the fear of losing is precisely the proof that that achievement is not secure. What is born of truth does not need to be desperately defended. What is born of lies requires permanent vigilance, and living under vigilance is the same as living internally unwell. The dishonest may even win sprint races, but life is not a short race. It is a long journey. And on this journey, the fastest runner does not win. The one who can walk for a longer time without falling apart internally wins. The one who does not need to change masks in every new environment wins. The one who does not need to betray their own values to keep advancing wins. Perhaps you have spent your entire life trying to avoid losing things: status, money, opportunities, recognition. But there is something that, when lost, makes all other losses seem small: self-trust. When a person loses this, they may appear strong to the world, but inside they feel fragile, unstable, dependent on external impressions to keep going. True prosperity does not force you to perform. It allows you to be. It does not demand perfect images from you. It offers you coherence. It does not require you to hide flaws. It gives you courage to correct them. The person of integrity is not one who never makes mistakes. It is one who does not turn error into a way of life. And when a person decides to abandon the lie, something extraordinary begins to happen. Relationships become lighter. Decisions become simpler. The heart slows down. The body comes into alignment. The mind organizes itself. Life ceases to be a game of manipulation and becomes a foundation for building. It is not that challenges disappear, but they no longer terrify. Because now there is something greater sustaining everything: self-respect. In the end, the big question was never how much a person earns. The big question has always been how much they need to lie to earn it. And the more they need to lie, the poorer they already are, even if the world believes the opposite. Because no one is truly rich while they need to betray themselves to continue prospering. For a long time, I observed how money changes people only on the surface. It changes the house, the attire, the tone of voice, the places they frequent. But it rarely changes what truly governs a person: their invisible habits, what they do when no one sees them, what they think when no one corrects them, what they accept when no one judges them. It is in these silent moments that true wealth is decided. And it is also there that false prosperity begins to decay. A person can learn to speak eloquently, can learn to negotiate, can learn to gain social respect, but if they do not learn to govern their impulses, everything they build transforms into something fragile. The impulse to take advantage, the impulse to justify oneself, the impulse to protect oneself through lies, the impulse to appear better than one is. These impulses seem small, almost harmless, but together they form the character of someone who will never fully enjoy what they achieve, because their mind is never at peace. It is always calculating anticipating, distrusting, defending itself. There is a form of misery that wears fine clothes, speaks elegant languages, and sits at the table of the powerful. But still, it is misery. It is the misery of the person who has lost the ability to trust even themselves. They sign contracts, but distrust everyone. They shake hands but keep their distance. They smile but protect themselves. They win but do not rest. This kind of life is not prosperous. It is merely elegantly strained. Money acquired without truth creates a dangerous psychology, the feeling that everything can be solved with more money. And when a person begins to think this way, they no longer seek transformation, only compensation. They compensate guilt with purchases. They compensate fear with control. They compensate insecurity with ostentation. They compensate emptiness with noise, but none of this fills, it only postpones. There is a profound difference between conquering the world and conquering oneself. Conquering the world can happen with cunning, timing, and opportunity. Conquering oneself requires discipline, self-denial, and self-control, and that is why so many succeed externally and fail internally. Because conquering oneself is a daily, silent, unapplauded work. But it is precisely this type of victory that sustains all others. The person who learns to say no to the shortcut learns to say yes to their own future. It may seem like a simple choice on an ordinary day, but over the years, that choice transforms into a kind of invisible protection. They do not lose everything at once, but they also do not need to rebuild from scratch years later. They do not climb in abrupt leaps, but they also do not plunge in violent falls. Their life becomes less dramatic and more stable, and stability is an elevated form of wealth. The dishonest man lives a life of peaks and valleys. One day, everything. The next, almost nothing. A week of euphoria, a month of tension, a cycle of quick gains, a cycle of baffling losses. The man of integrity, however, lives by slow but steady progress. He doesn't impress much at first, but as the years pass, he endures. And enduring is what most secretly desire, even as they loudly pursue shortcuts. Truth builds something money can't buy, emotional predictability. People know what to expect from you. They know how you react. They know your boundaries. They know where you won't compromise. This builds trust, and trust is one of the rarest currencies there is. Where there's trust, doors open without a push. Where there isn't, everything must be forced. The man who cultivates truth walks with less haste, because he doesn't need to escape his own past. He doesn't need to run from what he's built. He advances with steady steps, without the constant feeling of running away. He does make mistakes, yes, but he makes mistakes without hiding. He learns without selling himself out. He corrects without humiliating himself. And this kind of demeanor creates something powerful: quiet authority. Ultimately, it's not how much a man can accumulate that defines his greatness. It's how much he can sustain without betraying himself. Because anything that forces a man to deny who he is inside doesn't elevate him. It merely displaces him temporarily to a place where he'll never truly find rest. And perhaps now, as these words still echo within you, you're realizing that this reflection touches upon more than just money, business, or isolated choices. It touches what sustains your entire journey. Because ultimately, no one builds a solid destiny by trying to balance on lies. True prosperity demands something that can't be faked for long: consistency. And when that begins to align within, everything else falls into place in due time. If this resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. There are people right now facing a decision that could change everything, for better or for worse. Share this video with someone special you feel needs to hear this message today. Sometimes a simple truth arrives at the exact right moment to save years of silent suffering. Let's go forward together, and I'll see you in the next video.